Hello, welcome to the Stockyard Industrial Lead. I'm Eric Miller, and today we're going to be talking about transfers. And in particular, we're going to be talking about the transfers that come to the South Omaha Yard here on the Stockyard Industrial Lead. I've done a video before on the Union Pacific transfer and shown you how that operation works, but I've never really gone into a little bit more detail behind the reasoning why I have the transfers and how they work. And basically, I want to start out by saying that the transfers in general happen outside of the op sessions. I don't know if any of you folks at home do this, but I do have some operations that I usually like to say for kind of outside of the op sessions because they really don't last for a full, 3 to 4 hour session like my sessions usually go to. And I've considered them a little bit boring for crews. Now that said, I will sometimes run an op session myself, or I will run a transfer job myself during an op session while the crew is working. And that can be fun because then the operators get to see what it's like to do it. And I'll usually do it when I have more experienced crew running my op sessions, so I don't have to, help them out as much, and I can kind of run something myself while I'm working as the dispatcher slash industry foreman. So it gives me something to do, and then it kind of activates the other part of the yard because basically at the beginning of an op session and at the end of an op session is when this yard is active, when the crew's taking the cars out and bringing them back. But otherwise in between, it's really not so much. All right. So with that said, I basically have 3 different types of transfers. And as I've mentioned before in previous videos, basically all the cars that are going to the Stockyard Industrial Lead come into this yard right here, into the South Omaha Yard. And so I've got, it's a pretty small yard. It's just 3 tracks basically with a through track, 1 stub end track, and then the others are connect all the way through. So you can do a little bit of switching on either end. So pretty basic yard. I have this set at about 5 or 6 feet long per track, which fits with the siding that I have over in Bellevue, Gemini siding. And so that's it. Basically, it's just a little place for the cars to be collected, and where you can do some yard switching and block the cars before and after an op session. So this is how, like I said, we get all the cars for the Stockyard Industrial Lead. So the cars coming from other parts of the world come here, and then going out to the rest of the world, this is where they start their journey. So how do they get here, right? So those are how the 3 transfers, or 3 operations come in. I really only have 2 transfers, and the other one, the other third piece, I'll talk to you, explain that. So the first transfer, number 1, is the Union Pacific transfer, which I said is, I've already shown in a previous video. That one is basically the Union Pacific local that works its customers in South Omaha, comes and exchanges some cars here. And so that's basically the cars that are going to Union Pacific customers. So those are the cars that we see down here at the end, these lumber box cars, this bulkhead flat car. Those are the cars that will go off to the UP. So basically Payless Cashways, I think, is primarily the only customer that gets the Union Pacific cars. And then we also have cars that come in from Railcar America, the car shop. Now, Railcar America is part owner of the South Omaha Terminal, which operates the Stockyard Industrial Lead. But their territory is further north in South Omaha, where the stockyards, the main stockyards complex used to be. And so the way they kind of split the work is that they switch those customers up there in South Omaha. The South Omaha terminal here then switches the customers in kind of lower or southern South Omaha and down in Bellevue. So that's how that works. So they hand cars off to each other. So the Railcar America locomotive, the C415, will come down here and switch cars. And it also brings cars that are coming from the Burlington Northern, because the BN has a local that comes into South Omaha on the north end. So it'll drop cars off, similar as just like the UP does here. It'll drop some cars off. So basically all of the cars that are going to like the cement plant that are coming off the OL&B here, the big red line, and then also coming anything from Ash Grove Cement will come in off the Burlington. And then we also get some cars that are going to the standard distribution warehouse from the BN. And I don't think I'm leaving anything else out. Right. So then that leaves the third piece, which is the SPSF. The SPSF has a manifest train with trackage rights that runs up from Kansas City to Omaha, which is a remnant of when the Missouri, Kansas, Texas got its trackage rights during the Union Pacific, Missouri Pacific merger. And then when UP bought Missouri, Kansas, Texas, in real life, the Kansas City Southern picked up those trackage rights, but in my world, the SPSF picked those up, so that's how they serve South Omaha here. So the you see this mainline track back here, which connects to my transfer track way down at the end of the line here, and that's how the SPSF comes in. So that is something that I don't operate at all. So basically, these cars are coming from my storage drawers down here. But you can see the SPSF cars. So I've got the SPSF box cars. Let's see, what else? Oh, and then the SPSF will bring the cars that are coming from Chicago, like the cars that go to the Bellevue Leader, the paper cars, and they'll bring in some cars for the transload, like those covered hoppers back there. And so that's kind of. So the SPSF is basically bringing in the cars that go to the transload, a lot of cars that go to the standard distribution warehouse, the Bellevue Leader, and then they also will bring in gondolas for finished products at ready mix, like bridge components. So what else does that leave? Well, there's also some other transfer work going in. So the SPSF will also bring in some Darling cars, empty tank cars that are coming in and going up to the other part of South Omaha, which Railcar America will switch. So that's an interesting part of this job, that it also does some back and forth switching for cars that are just going to the yard, not going to a customer here. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then another part that I haven't started a model yet because I haven't gotten into it yet, but I need to get some auto rack cars, because there are cars that are going from the SPSF and Union Pacific to the Railcar America shops, which will be another move that this job can do. So those are all the things that this transfer job does that I want to show you today, the Railcar America transfer job. So it brings the BN cars from South Omaha that go into the Stockyard Industrial Lead. It also brings in the cars that are going from the SPSF to the other part of South Omaha that Railcar America switches. So those are the two primary duties. But anyways, I think that's kind of an interesting move, is that transfer job that happens from this yard going up to South Omaha that doesn't go to a customer on the layout. And so it kind of gives you a chance, an opportunity to model some other kinds of cars that, you know, don't really show up or don't have an excuse to show up on your layout because you don't have a customer for it. But with a busy urban yard like we have here, even just a small yard, we still have cars coming through like that. And then the cars that need to be repaired that I mentioned, and Railcar America in my era most commonly would repair and fix auto racks. So like I said, that's what I want to model. So I need to get into that. But auto racks are really expensive right now, so I'm kind of timidly getting into that, or looking at that. All right, so without any further ado, that's the overview of this operation. Now we'll get into the operations. So how does this work? Well, so the Railcar America train then comes from, like I said, the northern part of South Omaha, which is that track up there, just past the multimodal transit center that I'm still working on. It comes into the yard, and then it'll usually switch on this end of the layout because it'll come down here. It'll check in at the yard office for South Omaha Terminal and say, well, obviously it kind of checks in before it comes in off the main line, off the UP main line, to make sure that, it can, has track authority. But then it'll do another check-in and say, okay, we got these cars, we need to pick these up, and just do a double check to make sure the paperwork's correct. And then it'll start switching on this end. Now, the disadvantage we have is I'm as I've mentioned in the last video, I'm just starting my track project here, so everything's ripped up and in the middle of being reconstructed. So I won't be able to show you completely how this works, but I'll kind of give you show you the general rundown. So then usually what the South Omaha terminal does, since it's partly owned by Railcar America and they work well with each other, is it's got the cars blocked, and the cars for the transfer then are here on this first track. And so all Railcar America has to do is come down and switch out these cars, and then run around its train, switch out the caboose onto the other side, and then head back. All right, so I'll basically show you how that works, and we'll get to operating. Okay, so as I mentioned, the first part of this job is the Railcar America train comes in off the Union Pacific main line after getting track authority from the South Omaha terminal to operate on the Stockyard Industrial Lead. And then it'll come in on this through track here in the back and just run through with its cars. So what we've got today, we've got a couple cars for the ready mix concrete cement plant, and they're loaded obviously. And then we've got a Darling tank car. So this is likely a car that's loaded with tallow, ready to head back out onto the SPSF. And we've got a couple empties to go back. And we've got a couple of cars from the BN also for the auto, or not the auto parts, the standard distribution warehouse. And we've got its caboose at the end. Okay, so I have now successfully 050'd our cars here, since I can't, run down the stretch of track because it's been torn up with the construction there. So that is, I use my hands to move the cars. But I tried to very diligently pretend that, okay, I'm running this train like normal. So what I did is basically we would, pull in our train and back into the cars that were here on this track. And then that connects the caboose with these cars. And then after that, we can then pull just this cut of cars forward and back into the track, and then leave the cars that came from further up in the Railcar America yard here. So this is now for the South Omaha terminal to switch its customers on the Stockyard Industrial Lead. Now we've got to take these cars back, and we've got two options of how to do this. One is we could have actually just left the caboose off here, and then we could push back to the Railcar America yard, which is certainly a viable option. One of the reasons why we have the caboose, right? The other idea that we could do is how we've got it set up now. There's enough room on this track with all the cars here that we can cut the locomotive and run around this train, and then back these cars up here, and then the locomotive will then run back around, grab the cars, grab its new train, and head up to South Omaha. So it's kind of up to the crew and what to do with that. And I would probably I think it's a lot easier just to shove the train back. Like I said, you've got the caboose, might as well use it. So I think we'll go ahead and do that today. But I just wanted to show you the two different options that we have here. So that's essentially how this Railcar America transfer job works. I'll just do a simple ending with showing you how it heads back to the yard. But like I said, my transfers here are pretty simple, and in the model I've shown you why they need to exist in the real kind of prototype form. In the model world, this is also how it works with the yard here, and then the transfer track that I have back there. Now, if I have a Union Pacific transfer, I'll usually involve the mainline track that I have back here. Usually what I'll do is I'll bring the Union Pacific transfer all the way down, and just for fun, and have it run back to the transfer track and then back into the yard. So anyways, this seems to work pretty well. This transfer track is something that I just put in place, was it like a year ago or so? So I haven't had it super long, but I think it works pretty well. So anyways, that's a basic overview. This video took a little bit longer than I thought it would. I didn't think I'd be so windy at the beginning. I thought it would be more of an operations video, so I apologize for that. Anyways, I'll be back at you next week with a non-ops video, and we'll go through, we'll see what I get done. I might update you on the progress with the track here, or maybe the progress on the Union Pacific locomotive. We'll see. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. As always, feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments below. And if there's anything you want to see in the future, just let me know, and I'll see if I can get to it. So thanks everyone, and I will see you next week.